Are we going to see another technical recession in Japan?
Well, this time I think we are not going to experience a recession. I think we might have a very small positive economic growth because while consumption is very weak, exports are doing okay and capex spending is doing okay.
Yeah, but you said, you talked about the sluggish consumption. So can all of that capex spending that you also mentioned offset that?
I'm thinking this way because the consumption is already very weak from January, and so we are having another weak consumption. So we have a negative consumption growth, but probably capex spending started to become very strongly, and it's turning from negative growth to the positive growth. So I think capex spending and export will manage to offset the sluggish consumption.
But still, the assumption right now is even if we see positive growth, that it's going to be very marginal, right? When can we expect levels of growth, perhaps that we've seen pre-pandemic before these 4 states of emergencies or so that we've seen in the country?
Yes. So consumption is going to remain very, very sluggish for some time because we are still under state of emergency. The government may have to introduce the tighter control. So I think the recovery will really start from the fourth quarter of this year, from October to December. So I think the level of real GDP is going to go back to the pre-pandemic period, and that will be sometime next year. So very slow economic growth.
Sayuri, do you think there was any economic upside, even indirectly, from the hosting of the Olympics and the Paralympic Games?
Well, the government is insisting there is no direct connection between holding the game and this growing pandemics, but the number of infected people started to pick up toward the end of July. And I think, that Japan successfully hold the game because there's no cancellation of game because of the growing number of infected people among athletes. But it is true that people started to move around, partly because the Japanese athletes were doing so successfully and got so many medals. So people started to go out and enjoy and have some drink and so on. So, I think the Olympic really changed people's mindset toward the positive. So it's possible that accelerated the mobility of people.
So let me just bring up a chart, of course, just a reminder. We all know about the underachieving nature of the BOJ policy efforts when it comes to getting to that inflation target. But this is where we're at. It's not really going anywhere despite the kind of, perhaps transitory impact of energy and food prices. When you take a look at implications for the BOJ, what policy efforts do they have left?
So, over this pandemic period, what Bank of Japan did is very different from Fed and ECB and other central bank. Now, other central bank, for example, Fed, did massive purchases of government bond and the agency bond. In the case of Bank of Japan, what they did is that they provided massive liquidity to the banks with a maturity of less than 1 year. So that was a main the factors contributing to the rapid expansion of the Bank of Japan's balance sheet. And then for a certain period, like last March and April, Bank of Japan purchased the ETF to some extent, but they are no longer buying a lot. So you can see, so Bank of Japan did support the banking sector by providing liquidity, but other tools, it's almost running out. So, you see Bank of Japan doesn't have a lot of additional to generate aggregate demand.
How is the Japanese yen at around 109, 110, trading in very narrow ranges, impacting not only BOJ policy, but also corporates and their outlook for the rest of the year?
Mm-hmm. So current exchange rate like 119, 110 is very good, reasonable exchange rate, and think it help manufacturing sectors to generate their profit. At this moment in Japanese economy, the manufacturing sector is doing much better compared to the non-manufacturing sectors because of this no foreign visitors coming to Japan. So the tourism sector is suffering. So manufacturing sectors are doing quite well because they are increasing exports to US and Europe, and also especially to China and Asia. So, if the yen depreciates and stay at this level, this really is good to the manufacturer's profit when they convert into the Japanese yen. So current level is good. Actually, yen was much higher a couple of months ago. So I think it's, this is a very good thing. So this is not because of the Bank of Japan's monetary policy. It's mainly affected by US dollar index.
Yeah, of course, we are waiting for those GDP numbers out of Japan. We are expecting those preliminary numbers. As you heard from Sayuri Shirai, she's expecting marginal growth. Bloomberg Economics, though, expecting a small contraction that could actually lead the economy of Japan into a technical recession, again, the second recession when it comes to the last 2 years. This, of course, as we continue to see those virus infections with the fourth state of emergency. Finally, we do have those Japan GDP numbers at the moment, coming in at second quarter GDP growth of 1.3% on an annualized basis. The estimate was for growth of half a percent. Quarter on quarter is also 0.3%. The estimate was for growth of 0.1%, which means that Japan has avoided a technical recession. Let's turn back to Sayuri Shirai. Sayuri, so it seems to be even a little bit stronger than expected, not only for Bloomberg Economics, but consensus as well. Give us your reaction first.
I think consumption achieved a negative growth for two consecutive quarters. I think the main reason why this economic growth turned out better than we thought is probably export sector was doing better than import. But we thought that the net trade balance is going to be a very small positive or negative because imports started to pick up very quickly. There's a positive correlation between capex spending and imports. So I thought that import is going to catch up very strongly. So that's why the contribution to the real GDP in terms of trade balance is not going to be positive. But I think export was growing faster than import. That contributed to this better than expected economic growth performance.